So you should be on page 22 of your handbook, and we're going to look at the Unit 2 summary together. Your test is coming up, and this is a great tool to study your basic vocabulary words for this unit. This unit, Unit 2, is broken into 3 sections, and so you want to go ahead and start off on page 22 with your Unit 2 summary, and also have your handbook opened up to page 23, which is your first page of notes for this section. What I'm going to do here is to go over these questions with you and give you hints and clues as to what the answers would be, and some extra tips and extra bits of information for you to study from. So let's go ahead and begin with number 1. Number 1 and number 2 are focusing on the 2 cell types. 2 types of cells, okay? Number 1 is saying that cells are small and have no nucleus, do not have a nucleus. This cell starts with a P. An example of this cell, and you do want to add in these extra bits of information, and for you, you probably have a little more room on the right-hand side than I do, or you can have an extra sheet of paper out to write down this information. But for number 1, the answer starts with a P, and an example of this would be bacteria. Number 2, we're talking about cells that are larger and more complex, and they have a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles, like mitochondria and chloroplasts. The answer for number 2 will start with an E. Some types of organisms that belong to this cell type would be things like animals, plants, fungus, and protists. Okay? Number 3 says the blank blank is the barrier that protects the cell from the outside environment and regulates what enters and leaves the cell. So, enters and leaves, and protects and regulates. It's 2 words, starts with a C, M. This is one structure that every cell has, which number 4 talks about. All cells have 4 structures: a cell membrane, cytoplasm, DNA, and a word that starts with an R. Okay? There's one more structure that everything, bacteria, plants, and animals have. Those are those 4 things. So 4 structures there. Number 5, the small functioning part that performs functions for cells are called, starts with an O. This would be your mitochondria, chloroplast, ribosomes, nucleus. What are all of those things together called? What are they inside of a cell? Starts with an O. Number 6, the DNA of eukaryotic cells is found inside of the, and it starts with an N. What's that structure that protects the DNA? Okay. Prokaryotic cells don't have this structure. Number 7, amino acids are joined together to form proteins at the, starts with an R. This structure, if you see it in a drawing, is really small. Usually looks like a little dot. Okay? It's not completely an organelle. It's not a membrane-bound organelle. Number 8, the blank has folded membranes to increase the amount of energy production for the cell. This structure looks like a bean with folds inside of it. It starts with an M. You do have to know that it's folded. You do have to know the name of the structure. And you should also know that increased surface area is going to increase the amount of work that this cell can do, which is making energy. Number 9, blank are found in plant cells and are the site of photosynthesis. This structure is going to start with a C. It's similar to structure number 8 because it still looks like this rounded shape, but inside of it, it's going to have stacks inside of it. Okay? So there's going to be stacks in it. And in this structure, we're going through photosynthesis, making food for plants. Number 10, plant cells have a blank blank made of cellulose to provide rigid support. This structure is two words, CW. What is that? And it is made of cellulose, which let's remind ourselves that is a carbohydrate. That's one of our complex carbohydrates, a polysaccharide. Number 11 are only found in animal cells and are used for cell reproduction. I told you guys a lot that this almost looks like little Twizzlers. It starts with a C, helps the animal cells, only in animal cells, okay? Helps them to divide. Number 12, blank cells are cells that are not differentiated to become specialized cells. This starts with an S. There's lots of therapies that are trying to use this type of cell, such as in diabetes, having your cells become another cell to prevent those diseases. Number 13, one way cells maintain blank is to transport substances across their cell membrane. Remember when we're maintaining our constant internal conditions? Let's actually use the word where we're maintaining a balance, and that's going to start with an E, okay, maintaining a balance. Oh, actually, I think I'm making a little mistake there, I'm sorry. This one probably could have more than one option, and this would actually start with an H, okay? Your internal constant conditions. So let's add in on the side, constant conditions. I do want to stop for 1 second because with question number 13, we are moving into unit 2.2. So we're starting on 2.2. With number 1, we are starting on section 2.1. Okay, that was section 2.1. This is 2.2. I'm going to go ahead and scroll this up a little to make it a little easier to see. So again, we're on section 2.2, talking about cell transport. And so we're starting at number 13, 2.2. We're maintaining something that starts with an H when we're moving molecules back and forth. Number 14, blank transport does not require energy. No energy required. And it goes with the concentration gradient. Concentration gradient means you're moving from high to low. Okay? High to low. Top of the mountain to down. Okay? So this does not require energy, and this starts with a P. Usually you can describe a person with this word if they're really easygoing, really relaxed. Number 15, blank is the spreading out of molecules from high to low concentration. And this is going to be any molecule from high or low concentration. This starts with a D, okay? With this one, if I took a can of Lysol and I sprayed it in the air and you saw those molecules kind of spread out and eventually disappear, or you can smell the smell at the end of the room, back of the room, then this is what's happening. Number 16, blank is the diffusion of water across a membrane. And this is going to start with an O. Things to keep in mind here is number 14, there's 2 types of it. 2 types. And the 2 types are right here at 15 and 16. Both of these, the D and the O, don't require any energy. These 2 words, okay? You're both going from high to low concentration. Still going to high to low, and you're not requiring any energy. Number 17, in a saltwater solution, blank is the solute and blank is the solvent. Well, we're talking about salt water, okay? So what's going to be our solute? Solute's the stuff that's being dissolved in the water. So in this case, it's S. Remember, we only have 2 things here, salt, water, and W is the solvent. So you should be filling that in. Number 18, a freshwater plant placed in a saltwater solution would blank because water would leave the plant cells. We're putting fresh water into salt water, so it's going to And if you need to, draw yourself a picture, okay? Here's my little cell that I'm putting in this cup of water. My cell is fresh water, so there's lots, high amount of water, high H2O in it. And on the outside, I'm putting it into salt water. If it's salt water, it has mainly salt, so there's low H2O. If there's a little H2O outside the cell, a lot in the cell, where is it going to go? Is it going to move out? Is it going to move in? And if it moves out, what does that mean? Does my cell swell or does it shrink? Okay, if it moves in, does my cell swell or does it shrink? Number 19, blank transport requires energy, ATP. This is going to start with an A. It's not ATP, it needs ATP. But if you need energy, what type of transport is this? Number 20, a protist, not protest, protist with an I, like the paramecium, is adapted to surviving in an aquatic environment. It has a special adaptation. So protist adaptation is called a CV. 2 words, CV. And it means that it's going to pump out water. So what was that structure called? This V structure is also found in plants, plant cells. It contains a lot of water in it. It's really big in a plant. What was that called? 21. All cells store energy in a chemical bonds of a molecule called, starts with an A, and actually with 21, we're moving into section 2.3. Okay? This structure right here, we do need to know the shape of it. Okay? It was very similar to our nucleotide that we've seen before. Okay, it looks very similar to a nucleotide. Starts with an A. It's actually only 3 letters long. 22, the process that occurs in all cells to make energy is called, 2 words, CR. CR. And the R was one of our Stirner words, okay? It meant to take in oxygen, break down carbs, release energy. 23, cell respiration uses blank and oxygen to make ATP, water, and carbon dioxide. Uses what? What does it use here? And for 23, we can use a couple of different words. But the one I want you to focus on is the specific molecule. It is a type of carbohydrate. It is a small carbohydrate. Okay? It's also the name for the monomer of carbohydrates. Okay, specific one. Starts with a G. 24, blank respiration requires oxygen. Respiration that requires oxygen starts with an A, actually A-E.
Carol McIntyre, please come to room 702. Carol McIntyre, please come to room 702.
Respiration that does not require oxygen starts with an A-N. A-N. It's also called fermentation. Sometimes with fermentation, this type of respiration, you'll also make lactic acid, which we said makes muscles really sore, and we can also make alcohol. And so that's how they make things like wine. Okay? 26. Cells must maintain a large surface area to length ratio. This is going to be a V. And in this section, we're actually getting into unit 2.4. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I mixed this up a little. We're still in 2.3. And right here, we were just moving to another process, one of the cell processes. 2.3 is where we start talking about cells and how they divide. Right here, I'm going to stop right here because I'm running out of time, but we'll get back to this in the second video, okay? So we're finishing up this Unit 2 summary, and I apologize for going over that first video, but we're going to finish it up right now. For number 26 through 36, we're actually talking about Unit 2.3, which is cell division. Cells growing to make more, or cells growing to make, to repair or replace cells. You're making more offspring, or you're repairing or replacing. 27 says cells must maintain a larger surface area to, it starts with a V, ratio. What was that? And you should be turning to your notes as well in 2.3 to help you fill these in. For 27, during the blank part of blank, the cell copies the DNA and prepares for cell